Hello, my name is Reverend Dr. May Elise Cannon. Today is Friday, the end of the week, on the 26th of September, 2025. We're now at 721 days of what the world has called the war between Israel and Hamas. Others say is nothing less than ethnic cleansing or genocide. In Gaza, there was an Israeli strike near a market that killed 22 people on Wednesday. So this was a couple of days ago. The Wafa news agency, a local Arab news agency linked to the Palestinian Authority, said that all of those killed were seeking shelter at a warehouse that was targeted by Israel. The Israeli military said they were hitting two Hamas targets without providing evidence. Israeli fire killed a total of 80 people across Gaza yesterday, Thursday. The majority of deaths occurred in Gaza City in the north. Reports are coming from local hospitals. The Israeli army is deploying trucks with loudspeakers in Gaza to broadcast Netanyahu's speech that he just gave at the United Nations, while Unit 8200 will send the speech directly to phones of people in Gaza. Israel is forcing Palestinians to listen to Netanyahu's speech. The photo shows Israeli army trucks with loudspeakers broadcasting Netanyahu's speech, as this is written about in the news. And the question is, where did the Israeli army get this idea? Someone responded and said, from the army in Nazi Germany, which spread Hitler's propaganda in the concentration camps. God have mercy. In Israel, a drone fired from Yemen Wednesday injured 22 people in a lot. Wanted to be sure to mention that again. It's unclear how the drone penetrated the Israeli air defenses. The Iranian-backed Houthi rebels claimed responsibility for the attacks. They said it was a qualitative military operation. And Palestinian Authority Mahmoud Abbas yesterday condemned Israel's actions in Gaza as genocide. He said that the authority is willing to take responsibility for governing Gaza. He also said Hamas would have no part of governance in the territory, and he called on Hamas to lay down their arms. That was at the speech at the United Nations. Microsoft yesterday announced that it had disabled some of its services to the Israeli Defense Ministry. This is hugely significant, following an internal review that found evidence that Israel was using Microsoft's cloud storage services to hold expansive surveillance data on Palestinians. The data confirmed reporting by The Guardian and the Israeli news site 972 earlier this year, which reported that Israel was using the data to plan its military operations. That's hugely significant for Microsoft. An Israeli strike on Yemen's capital city of Sana'a hit residential buildings and 8 people were killed. That happened yesterday. The IDF said that they'd carried out their most powerful strike in Yemen, that it bombed targets belonging to Houthi intelligence services, security services, and the military. Iran and the U.S. yesterday signaled a possible softening in nuclear tensions. This actually was on Wednesday, my apologies, with Iranian President Pezeshkian telling the UN General Assembly that Iran will never seek to build a nuclear bomb, and the U.S. Special Envoy to the Middle East, Witkoff, saying that the U.S. is talking to and has no desire to hurt Tehran. Iran likely carried out an undeclared missile test at the Imam Khomeini spaceport last week. This is according to satellite imagery that was analyzed by the Associated Press. Iran has not formally acknowledged the test, but a parliament member of Iran claimed that Tehran had tested an intercontinental ballistic missile last Thursday. The foreign minister there, Arachi, said today on social media that Tehran would drop the agreement to allow the International Atomic Energy Agency to inspect its nuclear sites if Western powers implement the snapback sanction. There's been lots of talk about that because of the meetings at the United Nations. Those are due to be reimposed tomorrow. The UN Security Council will vote on a resolution proposed by China and Russia to delay that reimposition for sanctions on Iran. The delay would last for 6 months if that's approved. The ICJ announced yesterday that France dropped the case against Iran for violating 2 French citizens' right to consular protection, as they've arbitrarily been detained in Iran for over 3 years. The court did not specify why the case was dropped. This is very significant. We've been talking about the Samud flotilla, and I mentioned that Italy was accompanying it. Now Spain has joined in. Italy and Spain are sending vessels to offer assistance to the flotilla that was targeted by drones while carrying humanitarian assistance into Gaza. The Prime Minister Meloni of Italy said that the Italian Navy is not planning to use force, and they criticized the flotilla as gratuitous, dangerous, and irresponsible. Ironic, as they're sending some of their navy to protect them, the global Samud flotilla accused Israel of targeting its vessels. Former British Prime Minister Tony Blair has been involved in talks. We've talked about this. He had a meeting at the White House several weeks ago about leading a post-war transitional authority in Gaza. The proposal under discussion is said to have secured backing from the White House, which would entail Blair leading a governing authority supported by the UN and Gulf nations with a view of eventually handing back control to Palestine. Slovenia yesterday imposed a travel ban on Prime Minister Netanyahu in connection with the ICC's war crimes proceedings against him. The Slovenian Secretary of State at the Foreign Ministry said that with the action, Slovenia confirms it is committed to international law and universal values of human rights and principled and consistent foreign policy. Greece has also joined the Italians and the Spanish for the guaranteeing safe sailing of the boats that are a part of that global Samud flotilla, but only as long as they are traversing through Greek waters. The flotilla is seeking to break Israel's naval blockade to get that aid, which again is mostly symbolic and more of an advocacy statement, not insignificant in the least. Trump on Tuesday promised Arab and Muslim leaders he would not allow Israel to annex the occupied West Bank. U.S. Special Envoy for the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, said during a meeting, "We knew that these meetings have been happening between Arab states and the U.S., but we haven't heard much about it as of yet, and news is just starting to come out." Trump and his team presented what's being called the Trump 21-point plan for peace, peace in the Mideast in Gaza. So Trump yesterday specifically told reporters he would not allow Israel to annex the West Bank. He said a ceasefire deal in Gaza is close. Trump is expected to meet with Netanyahu on Monday, following Netanyahu's address to the UN General Assembly. That was happening today. Microsoft, I mentioned this already, but I want to read it from a different news source, terminated the Israeli army's access to technology that the army was using in the notorious Unit 8200. This was providing power to a mass surveillance project of Palestinians. Over the last year, BBC News investigated ways the Israeli army has employed this technology of Microsoft, from a heavy reliance on the Microsoft cloud and AI products to direct coordination between senior company executives and the elite in Israel's intelligence unit 8200. So the reporting was with Local Call, The Guardian, and 972, and it exposed a partnership between the tech company and the Israeli military. And this is what the good news is about this. Because of pressure on Microsoft, Microsoft is no longer providing that technology. It is a huge decision. This is a very big deal. Well done, Microsoft. Tonight, I spoke on a panel here in Washington, D.C. It was a part of the Palestinian Diaspora Conference. I was asked by Rateb Rabi to be on a roundtable discussion about the U.S. and Western policies on Palestine, challenges and opportunities. The organization that sponsored the event is called Know Thy Heritage Palestine, and it was a privilege. I was one of only a few non-Arab speakers. I had the opportunity to talk about our work at Churches for Middle East Peace and Christian Advocacy. One of the things I shared was seeking to answer the question, what is good governance? And I teased, I'm not the person to ask, right? I'm a pastor, but I do know that good governance should be about freedom and liberty and the application of international law and human rights. And, I've talked about this before, but I've spent some time with Prince Hassan of Jordan over the past 2 years. And one of the things he said to me when I met with him recently is that people matter, and we're at a place in the world, a point in time where people don't matter. And when we look at what's happened in Gaza, Palestinians are not being viewed as fully human. Palestinians don't matter, and that's what has to be changed. More specifically, children in Gaza and the occupied Palestinian territories, they're dispensable. And this is unacceptable. Not only is the U.S. sitting idly by and not intervening in constructive ways, the U.S. could bring an end to the genocide in a moment by withholding weapons from the state of Israel. Over the past 3 administrations, I and the team at CMEP have worked alongside a lot of people, who are part of the discussions tonight. We've worked through 3 administrations, starting with Obama. And I talked a bit tonight about how, as an evangelical, I had to confess, I mean a 19th century evangelical, not the definition that evangelical means in the political sphere today. And I asked people today if they know the meaning of that word. Evangelical means good news. And if the gospel is not good news to the people of Gaza, then it is not good news at all. The Jesus that I know and love proclaimed freedom for the captives, recovery of sight for the blind. He spoke about feeding the poor and meeting the needs of the most oppressed. God is a God who cares for the poor. Church, the gospel has to be good news. And in this moment, for all people, including the people of Gaza, including the people of Israel, otherwise it is not the gospel at all. Might God go before us in our continued efforts towards peace. In the name of Christ, amen.